This is your Monday Daily Delivery. Michael Rand here, Patrick Reusse joining me. Hope everyone had a good holiday. Got a little break here over the last week. Hope you guys missed us a little bit. Glad to have you back. Glad to be back doing this. Glad to have Patrick on because Patrick, it's everybody in the new year probably kind of makes that's a time of renewal, rebirth. People make a big deal about, whether it's a resolution, whether it's, last year wasn't the best, and last year certainly wasn't the best. 2020 was maybe a little bit worse, but people look to the changing of the calendar as a time for something to be different. And boy, Patrick, unfortunately, so far in 2022, sports feel very familiar here in Minnesota.
That is true. We know one thing: we're going to have some renewal with the Vikings because they're going to blow up that operation. But I was just thinking as you were saying, I hope you had a happy New Year's. Well, unless you paid any attention to sports in Minnesota, you got to pay exorbitant prices to go freeze your arses off at the hockey game and watch your team give up 5 goals in one period and look like a bunch of idiots. And then you had the Timberwolves Cat has disappeared again. Nobody knows why. He was recovered, but we have to he doesn't play anymore. He decided to quit. And now what happened last night in Green Bay was just a complete fiasco. I was talking to you a minute here before we came on. Sean Mannion, you're not going to play Kellen Mond, okay? Obviously, Zim told us right off the bat you're going to play at the minute here that he's seen him in practice and he doesn't want him to go out and humiliate himself because he can't play, at least not yet. But you cannot, Mike, start a game when you're playing against Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field by sending your quarterback out there and say, don't do anything. We'll hand the ball to Dalvin, let him run into a 9-man line and see what can happen. You have to try to play the game. You got to try to play. And they didn't let him try anything, until you got to try to play. These guys been around. He's only been out of protocol for 20 minutes to play this game. But what was that? What are you trying to do? Throw the ball, do something, try to, I know you're not going to get a lot of protection, but you got to try to throw a 25-yard pass to Jefferson, don't you? You got to try to do something. It was brutal. It was ridiculous. And everybody will blame Zim for this. And maybe that's him that's coming up with a strategy, but this Clint Kubiak is a complete failure. I said on Twitter he should try to become the offensive coordinator at Crown College and then work his way up for the next 20 years and be ready to go. He's terrible. This is going to be a bloodletting. If they can do it on Tuesday, blow everybody out on Tuesday.
Yes.
That would 20th anniversary of Denny getting fired and with one game to go in the season. So I think that would be the perfect day to do it. Anyway, that was pathetic. It was a pathetic approach to trying to play football. And as someone, I love Twitter for this reason. Somebody pointed out very early that Garrett Bradbury had more yards than Dalvin Cook yesterday.
As I noted on Twitter, we complain about Garrett Bradbury, but did he not catch all of his targets last night?
Yeah, that's right. He had 20. He gets credit for a 21-yard reception because the deflection, he was probably 2-3 yards past the line of scrimmage, but he gets all 21 yards. Dalvin, I believe, had 13 rushing and 0 with several passes that he caught were for 0. Do you think he said, how long was he playing last night when he said, am I really going to do this? Am I going to run into a 9-man line or take these little dunk passes for 2 yards with everybody chasing me out when it's 20 below 0 and I'm playing with idiots who don't try to run any of their offense? It was I wasn't surprised when he limped off. I'll tell you that. I was not surprised.
Don't think it went unnoticed in my household, by the way, by myself, that Zimmer post game and probably even halftime was grumbling that they abandoned the run too early, that they didn't try to run the ball enough. Another veiled shot at an offensive coordinator, his sixth offensive coordinator in 6 years. By the way, I wonder.
By the way, Zim, you didn't try to run often enough because you were 3 and out every time you had it. It's hard to run the ball when you run it into a brick wall and it's 2nd and 9, and then you run again and it's 2nd and 8, and then you throw an incomplete pass and punt. It's hard to establish the run when you're 3 and out, right? Weren't they 3 and out their first 3 possessions?
Something like that. It was not. I mean, it's like if you're not going to have any pretense that you have any kind of dynamic passing game, then that's you make life so easy on the defense. It's just and that was part of the I agree that Kellen Mond, and he got one series late in the game and did not look good.
Well, he threw the ball to that. He threw the ball to that linebacker.
Yeah, should have been a pick 6 on that 3rd down play. So if we were, a lot of us were like, well, look, play Kellen Mond. Let's just see what happens. At least he's got something. A, you find out a little bit of information, and B, he's got he can run, he can do some things that maybe are a little bit more dynamic in the offense. But I get Sean Mannion far more experience, knows the offense better because he's been here longer. But
does he, Mike? Do we?
I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know.
Maybe he doesn't.
I don't know. I don't know.
I know that offense.
It was bad.
And the ball to Dalvin Cook inside the guards, and then throw a 2-yard pass.
Right.
What offense was there to know? They didn't run anything.
No, it was very basic.
Take a playcation to Mystic Lake for 24/7 gaming, fun restaurants and bars, and luxurious hotel rooms. And join Club M to bask in the rewards. Follow the lights to Mystic Lake, where every day is play day.
Dialing back a moment here, it was, we've been talking all year long about, just this looming specter of Kirk Cousins not being available, perhaps, at some point in the season. Because what if he gets COVID at a certain point, and as this variant, became more prevalent, you're seeing tons of people get sick in the NFL and around sports and around the country. It felt like this inevitability now. And of course it comes, at a point in the season where they absolutely have to have a win in order to stay alive in the playoffs. And it comes against their biggest rival. It's like one of those things where you see it coming for like 3 months and you're like, nah, you're trying to talk yourself, nah, it wouldn't really happen against the Packers. And then it does.
Yes. And let me throw this out there. The Packer fans, giddy. They love Aaron again. I got the feeling in my gut, which is a sizable gut, right? I got the feeling he's going to miss a game in the playoffs.
Ooh.
At home. He's the same non-vaxxer. He's got the same rules. He's already missed one. The way this thing's flying around, man, it's damn near impossible not to get it. The best reason to get vaccinated is you can get out of protocols earlier in the NFL when you're a healthy guy like him. You're not going to end up in the hospital in all likelihood. You're not going to be that sick in all likelihood, but you can get out of the protocols earlier. That was the best reason for all of them to be vaccinated. As far as the NFL is concerned, the best reason for that moron Cousins to be vaccinated, the best reason for Rodgers. Meanwhile, has Rodgers ever had an easier game in his life? No. He was 10 below. Those little throws to the edge, 8 yards. They were throws that the starting quarterback for Benilde St. Margaret's could make. And they were just, I've never seen a guy. He and Adams hooked up on a couple just for giggles, that they threw like the back shoulder and the little pluck on the, when poor Chris Boyd is running around in circles and he reaches out. But he never got touched. Did he?
Not until late. Yeah, I think he got hit. Like Dalvin Tomlinson got him one time in the second half, but that was about it.
I mean, and then just these little easy throws to the edge were unbelievable. And I saw one play where they threw it to Adams on the edge, and it was only a 2-yard gain. And you look at it and you say, well, the guy missed the block, right? That Lazard missed the block. So he got this disgusted look on his.
I remember that play, yeah.
And you're saying, I wonder what he's mad about. And then you see the play. The guy missed the block. It's 8 yards. Next time they run it, they block it, and he goes for 11 yards. Run the same play. Anyway, it was just a complete fiasco, and we drove mightily to get the field goal before the end of the half, and got the ball back to start the second half. There was no chance they were going to get back in the game.
No,
but 3 and out, punt. Let's go. Come on. We spent the we halftime. We'll readjust now. Okay, let's do the same idiot nothing stuff that we did in the first half. That's our strategy. Okay, run twice and throw a little incompletion and punt. Oh God, it was terrible.
I want to get to some big picture stuff here in a minute, but I do want to play the Zimmer Kellen Mond post game interaction. It wasn't very long. His whole post game, I think Ben Gessling clocked it. It was around 3 minutes. He wrote that in his game story that's on StarTribune.com right now and in your Monday newspaper. But here is Zimmer talking about Kellen Mond after the game.
Do you think you want to get a look at Mond next week?
Not particularly.
Mike, why don't you want to get a look at him?
I see him every day.
So, people are jumping Zimmer, and I get it. I took that quote more, A, to mean he doesn't like what he's seen, but B, that part of it was that he sees him in practice every week. He doesn't need to see him in the game necessarily. Yeah. So I don't know if it was I don't know if it was so much of a shot as it was just a matter of fact, but it wasn't complimentary either way.
Well, it is interesting, however, that we get very upset at coaches and everybody when they don't say anything, right? When they don't, when they don't give you any candid answers. He gives you a candid answer, and now we want him to be dragged through the street behind a car because he's not a fan of this rookie that they drafted, who they knew was going to take 3 years to ever be able to put on the field, because he's an athlete, but he's not anywhere near prepared to play. So, what reason would there be not to play? What are you going to see if you play him Sunday against the Bears? He's going to go out and pass for 185 yards and run for a touchdown, and all of a sudden you have your quarterback. Let's not be idiotic here, for God's sakes. It's not, there's, the public always wants to, if Mond had come in and, let's say completed the pass to one of his guys instead of almost to the other guy there at the end of that drive.
Yes.
And had gotten 2 first downs, the morons would have been shouting that he should have been playing quarterback all year. So there's nothing that he could do on next Sunday against the Bears would override what they've seen all year, that he's probably not ready to play. And, and they're going to have to, this idea, well, what are they going to do with Cousins? Who's going to take him? Especially after this, who's going to take him?
Oh, he's tradable. He's very tradable.
No, he's not.
He's certainly is. Oh, yeah.
Not at those prices. Not at those prices. He's not tradable.
I think he is. I think he is. I think you can find I think you can find a taker for Cousins. He's had good enough. He's been good enough that somebody who needed a quarterback for 1 year or 3 years
wants to take a bite on $30 million. I don't think so.
I think he's tradable. Well, you can't cut him because that's $45 million in dead cap. But if you trade him, you're only left with 10. And I think somebody
get prepared to get a 6th round draft choice in.
I don't know. I think
nobody's going to give you anything of value for him at that prices. Not especially after this fiasco.
I disagree. I disagree on that one. But the bigger question now is, Cousins is a decision, is a personnel decision, involving a player. If we went into this season, we went into this last, 4-game stretch, wondering about Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman's future. We don't know what's going on exactly in the mind of the Wilf family right now, but what they saw Sunday and the previous Sunday cannot have left them encouraged. It feels so much like this has just run its course. It's got to be done, right?
The Spielman is the question. Yeah, he's got it. And I kind of Jeremy Fowler's thing, and then Locke and Forrest says they're looking around right already. That he suggested that they've been looking around for coaches at least, and the Wilfs. But the question becomes: is Spielman going to get some title that I think what Jeremy Fowler wrote a week ago is probably what's going to happen, that Spielman's going to become a consultant with the title who doesn't have the influence. You're going to get him. The trouble with hiring a new GM now is you can't let Spielman hire your coach and then go hire a GM. If you're just going to have to wait and take your new coach after you hire a GM, and that could be a month-long process. And so I don't know. You really think you should allow Spielman to hire your coach for that a general manager is that a new general manager is going to, and then a new general manager is going to come in here? That makes no sense. So who do they got? They got anybody to promote? I don't know, to become the general manager, and then let Spielman hire the coach while you're waiting here. I don't know. It's a bad time to be looking around, because although they say not as many coaches are going to get fired this time, 3 or 4 maybe.
Yeah.
So Black Monday, as they call it, might only be Zim. I think Zim might be gone this week.
Yeah, it feels that way.
By mutual consent. So I think he was the guy who wanted to go big. He wants to go. He's sitting there with a red nose, watching this operation, freezing his arse off. How old is he? 62 or
65, I think.
65-year-old. And he's saying, I want to go to the ranch. This is the hell with this. And all he's been put through this season, and then to have to go to Green Bay without his quarterback, he wants to go home. They want him to go home. Let Andre Patterson coach the game against the Bears and fire him this week. That's he can resign just like Denny resigned 20 years ago, right? Remember Denny resigned? Yeah,
sure yes, he did. Resigned under
Yeah, the question becomes Spielman. I thought Spielman would probably survive because he's a manipulative guy, and he's been kissing up to the Wilfs for all these years, and he's been backstabbing Zim all year, I would imagine, trying to save his job. But I don't think he's going to survive either. I think they're going to blow her up. And Cousins, if they can get rid of Cousins, they have to get rid of Cousins. The PR, the misery that he would be put through coming back, the PR with most of the public is not to the point where you can't bring him back either if you can trade him for anything to get out from under that contract. And then you got to go into the free agent. You got to go do the Warren Moon thing, right? You got to do that whole thing Denny went through for years and find a veteran quarterback who can play
yes,
for a couple of years and then start all over again as a quarterback. I don't know. I think there's a lot of wily old guys you could dump right now. Harrison Smith, some guys like that. You might. I think they got to do this all over again. They got some great young players, but I think they got to. They certainly got to remodel because, Mike, with 7 teams getting in the playoffs, the idea that you can't readjust a lot of things and make the playoffs is ridiculous, because all you got to do is be 9-8. All you got to do is win
Yeah.
half of them, and you could
Yep.
be in the playoffs. So it's in my opinion, all three of them should go. Spielman should go too, but Spielman will be around in some form probably, because I don't think people are going to be lined up to hire him as their chief football executive. So.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Final thought, like if this is the end, and Mike Zimmer saw this coming, 3.5 years ago at the scouting combine where they were talking about, what should they do at quarterback? Should they, he's going through the laundry list of, Sam Bradford's knee is all messed up. Teddy Bridgewater, we don't know about him. Case Keenum, he's basically got lucky for a year. And they're talking about Cousins, in theory at least, and saying, I don't know, whatever it is. The thing I do know is that if we make the wrong decision, I'm probably going to get fired. Mm-hmm. And here we are. I mean, it's like, and it's not all Kirk Cousins. I would say he's played reasonably well, but it's still like, how do you, in the final evaluation, how do you grade this, the Zimmer era, and especially the 4 years with Cousins? It's just
failure.
It feels like an incomplete almost. It's just it's okay. It's like a C. It's fine, but it's not.
I don't think it's fine. I think it's a failure. You at those prices, you didn't pay him $84 million guaranteed for 3 years. Did they win one playoff game with him? Right, one playoff game.
Yes, one playoff game.
And what did Zim win? 2? Did Zim win 2 playoffs? Yes,
the miracle, and the overtime win against the Saints. I think.
Yeah, so they won 2 playoff games. Now it's Cousins is a failure. Zim, an 8-year run, third longest in Viking history, behind Bud and Denny, but. Guys got fired for Chili won 2 playoff games and got fired in 3.5 years. So wasn't it 3.5, 4.5 years, I guess.
Yeah.
And
Chili won 1 playoff game.
I thought he won 2.
Just the one. He made the playoffs twice.
Made the playoffs twice. 8 years, 2 playoff wins. You're not I give you a D+ as a coach. 8 years. 8 years is a long run. He was okay. Good. He'll have a job next year as a defensive consultant for somebody.
Yes.
And he'll get paid, and he'll get to go to training camp and then do a phone call with he'll be doing what Dennison supposedly was going to do for this team this year. But my bottom line on the tenure is, at this point, Cousins failure, Zim failure, Spielman failure. So they're all they didn't these are not like F+ D failures, but they're certainly less than C's for all three of them, in my opinion. Yeah, at those prices with Cousins, Zims get 8 years, man. Not many guys get 8 years with this track record. And Spielman has, been running this operation forever. And, I think Spielman and the Wilfs had more to do with bringing Cousins in here than Zim did. I don't blame.
Oh, 100%.
I don't put the blame on Zim for Cousins being, just okay. No. Just okay.
Well, and it's like he could see this coming too. He knew, like, the minute you spend that much money on a quarterback, different parts of the roster don't get the same attention. They just can't. You can't pay everybody, and they tried to for a while. They kept moving money around, and bills are going to come due next year, and that's part of the problem. It's like if there was any hint of a thought of let's run this back, like, you can't even imagine how this would be much better next year, and it's going to be worse because you won't have as much cap space next year. So it's reached its logical conclusion.
And here's the other deal. As you're judging Spielman, we wanted him to go and draft higher for offensive linemen, right?
And did.
And he did. And now you see it, you say, it's been a little beat up, but Cleveland, okay. Bradbury, no. O'Neal, yes. But Darisaw, maybe. But it's not like you still don't have an offensive line. I mean, they got trampled yesterday, and they couldn't create no room to run against the 9-man front. That has got something to do with it. But they got beat up more often than they didn't here down the stretch. So I don't know. There's a lot of blame to go around, and it's football, and we all judge it. But here's the deal, Mike. Come April, when we have the new draft, we will once again have kicked everybody else. We'll have had the public will be convinced that we just had one of the greatest drafts of all time, and everything will be renewed for another season. The greatest PR in sports, any sport in American sports, is the NFL draft. Because you're dealing with people who want to believe that things are different now that you made these great draft choices. You know what I want in a new GM? I want a guy who never has more than 6 draft choices. And
you don't want 15?
He takes 3 7th rounders and trades them for a 4th. I want one difference maker for every 6 bodies to bring in here. 6th rounders, 7th rounders are bodies. They're just like undrafted free agents.
Yes,
he compile them, and then Spielman takes bows for having 15 guys, and then one of them turns out to be a player. And see, Stephon Diggs. See what a genius I am. It's the hell with that. Get good players. Get the difference maker.
Yes.
Trade up and get the difference maker.
Yep. Stop trading down. Start trading up. Well, let's move on a little bit. We got a little bit of time left. Unfortunately, we're not transitioning from bad news into good news. We're transitioning from bad news into more bad news. The Wild kind of falling apart lately. I mean, part of it's been the interruption from COVID. Part of it's been, some players that are missing, both due to COVID and due to injury. And part of it's just that maybe some of the things they were doing earlier in the year getting away with, they're no longer getting away with. But, they lost again in the Winter Classic, down 6-2 after 2 periods, made it a little bit more palatable in the 6-4 final, but still not really a competitive game for almost all of it. A team that had the best record in the NHL for like a brief moment. I don't think they've won since then. I think they'll probably still be okay, but maybe we were a little hasty in the planning the Stanley Cup parade route a third of the way into the season.
On Saturday night, you don't have Spurgeon and Brodin, who are probably your 2 best players, and they're both defensemen. So that does make a little difference. But it is really hard to say because they hadn't played in 11 days, right?
Yeah.
How can the NHL, by the way, say, okay, we're going to cancel all these games because we're gonna postpone all these games because Canada can't draw people? Well, what are they going to do? Play 5-6 games a week here? What are they going to take are they going to change the schedule so the NHL break the Olympic break they were going to play? Are they going to start playing that they were going to take? Are they going to start making up all those games during those 2 weeks? Is that what they're going to do? They haven't really told us how they're going to make up these games, but Canada, these teams in Canada aren't playing, right? For the most part, aren't playing any home games because they've got crowd restrictions now. So it is really extremely weird, and what the schedule is. But yeah, they might be a little more flawed than we thought they were, and that was. But don't you think a lot of the way the Blues have been playing good, and the Blues played a game Wednesday. They knew what the hell they were doing. Our fellas were out there skating around in circles. They hadn't played a game in 12 days. So I don't know, but I'll say one thing. This might be the greatest pull the goalie team I have ever watched in my life. They pull the goalie with 10 minutes to go, and they have the puck all the time. They did it the last time they played when they were 3 goals behind, and it took a 160-foot shot for the opponent to get a goal, right? And Like
Yes.
Same thing with St. Louis. They get these teams and they played great without the goalie. Maybe that ought to be the new strategy. That might get a little exhausting if you're playing that way, but they're terrific when they don't have a goalie. He's had the goalie pulled for over 8 minutes twice, I believe.
That's amazing.
It's incredible. 3 goals behind, pull the goalie. Go get him, Abby. But wouldn't that be classic Minnesota sports? Now, we've all think Guerin is a genius, right? And he's certainly, been as impressive to this point. But you give your whole crew new contracts.
I was just going to bring that up.
Fall out of your rear ends. Like, remember Yossi? Remember Yossi's first year, best team in the league after 30 games, right? And they won.
I believe that's correct.
And they won in the last 52. They won 7 games in regulation. I remember that figure. That team was the worst team they ever had, pretty much. But they had the most points in the league after 30 games. Now, I'm not comparing this with that team, but yeah, it has been a little reality. It has been boy, are they great. At least we have the Wild, and now they haven't won a game since December 11th. So anyway, I looked it up yesterday. December 11th was their last win.
That's 3 weeks. It's a long time ago, and yeah. And, just with the people they're missing and and again, everybody's dealing with COVID in a certain way, but when you false starts, starts and stops, it is probably taking a certain measure on the continuity of the team. So we'll probably get a better gauge on them once they're back into a semi-regular schedule, if and when that happens.
Know what? I will say this about the Winter Classic. If you spent money and went there, right? Got all bundled up and couldn't see anything except if you looked at the big scoreboard. You're not going to admit you had a lousy time. Nobody's going to admit it. Nobody. It was great. We're all going to say it was great, even if all we did was get hypothermia. We're not going to admit that. What am I doing here? I can't see anything. I'm all bundled up. I can't sit down. I have to stand up the entire 3 periods, and I got to watch my team. Well, I couldn't see my team give up 5 goals, but there was somewhere up on the scoreboard. But everybody's going to say what a great time they had, which is because people don't like to spend that kind of money and then admit they were wrong. I've always said that's the secret of the Wild. They got into that family audience better than anybody. And mom and dad are not going to be driving back to Woodbury with the 12 and 10-year-old kid after spending $600 saying, boy, did that stink. We were terrible. God,
no, you're right.
6-1. They're not going to tell the kids what a rotten time they had. So that's.
You're right about that, because anytime we take the kids somewhere, we are hyping it up. We are like, wasn't that great?
Yeah.
Wasn't that? Did you have fun? What was your favorite part?
Lambeau last night with the kids. It was great, wasn't it, kids? Wasn't it?
Oh man, I can't even imagine
play
that.
Like a bunch of morons. Yeah, wasn't it great? Yeah.
Patrick, does this mean you're not going to be at USA versus Honduras in February at Allianz?
What is that? Why would we say yes? We want to play that game. I suppose it's the advantage. We figure Honduras is all free.
Yes,
but we're in anyway, aren't we?
It's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good.
I mean, it's not like they're going to have to go to Trinidad and Tobago and win again to make the cup. That's always been my line. Is it really fair that the U.S. has to play both Trinidad and Tobago? I mean, come on. Let's we were only one country and they're two, right? I mean,
yes.
We shouldn't have to play both of them. No, I won't be at that game. Let me say this about our Timberwolves, though, too. Now, from what I could tell reading about this, Cat wasn't sick, right? Cat and Russell weren't sick. They were recovering from protocols, right?
Yes.
Well, why aren't they playing? Or were they sick? Or are
I
they
don't know.
symptomatic? Because it
I
doesn't
don't know.
make any difference. It doesn't make any sense to not have them play all these games because they're, recovering. If they're recovered and you're out of protocols, I think they're out of protocols, right?
I think
That's
so.
what I mean, that's the indication I got a week ago or 5 days ago that we were, Finch kept saying something about, well, we have to ramp them back up again. Why? It's basketball.
I don't know.
Get out there and play, unless they were sick and they're not telling us the truth, then, but it makes no sense to be playing. They're not playing again tonight against the Clippers, apparently. Well, what's the deal then? I mean, I guess they're not telling us the whole truth then, but what are they, are they emotionally not ready to return because they tested positive about 2 weeks ago, right? Cat hasn't played. I think they both missed 5 games, right? At least Cat's missed 5 games, I think.
Yeah, it all runs together for me right now because when we didn't do shows for a week, it's
I don't get it. Play. If you're out of protocols, you don't have to ramp back up.
No, go play
basketball. Go play 25 minutes and do the same thing you've been doing here for 7 years. I don't know what the hell's going on. It's weird. They're not tanking. They don't want to tank.
No, they're certainly not tanking.
So I don't get it. I guess we haven't. I know, I think we've reinstated the Zoom era too, right? So it's not like they're gonna break it down for you. But I want to know why these 2 guys aren't playing. If they're not sick and they're out of protocols, why in the hell aren't they playing? I don't.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
I don't get it. But
Patrick.
They're the Wolves, so
they are.
As I always
they are the Wolves.
Even when they do the right thing, it's the wrong thing. So that's.
We're barely 2 days into 2022, and like we said at the jump, it has not been great so far. Maybe we leave, Patrick. Anything? I talked to Lavelle quite a bit about this on a special edition last week. But is there anything you are interested in, looking forward to seeing in 2022 as we maybe end the show on a slightly more upbeat note?
Well, I think as it comes, you become more interested. But Ben Johnson's basketball team is one of the more curious things we've had happen around here in my long career. How these guys have managed to become contenders for the NCAA tournament is amazing. I think that's it's kind of fun. It's kind of interesting to watch that. They got Illinois here Tuesday night. I guess the Wild still interests me. Yes. What that's going to become of that. And as far as what am I looking forward to? I don't know. You know what I'm most gloomy about? When baseball, after all of when baseball comes back and they have 7 teams in the playoffs, and they're going to have this ungodly, unwieldy, the 162 game regular season is not going to mean anything because you're going to let a bunch of stumble bums in the playoffs who basically didn't win half their games. I'm more distressed about what baseball is going to become with this moron Manfred than I am about the rest of it. I mean, Viking redos, they're kind of fun. They're fun. Oh, what the hell? They're fun. And the Timberwolves, I don't know what to say about them. I like Finch. I think he's fine, but and the Wild, they're okay. And the Gophers, maybe Mott's go win the national championship, and that'll be something to talk about. I don't know. Then I'm not. I think. Isn't there a movie show, the TV show, This Is Us?
Yes. My wife likes that show. I've watched that with her.
This Is Us. Right? This is us. This is us. Third day of 2022. This is us. Right?
That's about right. I don't know if there's anything more to say, but that perfectly sums it up. This is what Minnesota sports is and continues to be. There's storylines. There's not always as much winning as you might like, but it's never dull, at the very
never
least.
dull. It might
Never
be a
dull.
lot more dull without Zim, though. I love Zim when Zim. Okay, when Zim has the red rear end to go with his red nose, it's really fun. It is really something, isn't it? Great, Kellen, hang in there, Kellen Mond. Somebody might show up who's going to try to convince you you're good, but this ain't the guy.
Well, on that note, Patrick, great having you back this week. We'll do this again next Monday. We'll be back at it on Tuesday as well with our usual football stuff. Patrick, appreciate it. Happy New Year. We'll see you again next week.
Michael.